This is the Citizen Report with Jonathan Shannon.
And welcome to the Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon. Thank you for tuning in this week. We've got a special guest for you here today. My grandmother is joining me. She's from out of state. She lives in Tennessee. And so she's joining me in the studio today to talk a little bit about her experiences with the Great Depression, and also talk about life during World War II, and also talk about Americanism in general. All very important subjects. So without further ado, my grandmother joins me in studio, and of course, as I call her, Nana Marie Parker. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Well, thanks for coming in today. So just give us a brief background of where you grew up.
Well, I was born in 1933 in Upris County, which is 60 miles from Nashville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I lived on a farm for 13 years, then I moved to town, Waverly, Tennessee.
Okay, so tell me, how many siblings did you have?
My parents had 10 children,
Wow.
but there was two that died at birth.
Right.
I was the youngest in the family.
Okay. So what did your father do for a living?
We lived on a farm, 50 acres, and my father grew food
Mm-hmm.
that we had to eat.
Yeah.
And he had a talent of cutting people's hair. And people from all of the county would come to him,
Mm-hmm.
have their hair cut. But he never took pay for it.
Wow, I mean that's fascinating. Besides raising children, let's switching gears a bit. What did your mother do, of course, besides raising children?
My mother canned food that my father raised on the farm,
Mm-hmm.
and anything else that we could gather. She canned. She saved everything. Nothing was thrown away. Because with 10 children to feed, there was nothing to throw away. And she made all of her 7 daughters clothes. And my mother was a mid-mother. I guess you call it that.
A midwife?
My midwife, that's what it is.
Midwife.
And she did this for the community or wherever they needed her,
Mm-hmm.
but she never received any pay for this.
Okay. Now, of course, and we're switching gears again. A lot of people don't, especially in younger generations like my generation, may not know that the Great Depression did not end with the start of the war of America getting into World War II in 1941. But just tell me about some of the effects of the Great Depression, and of course into the war itself. Of how did your lives change as a result?
Well, during the Depression, when it
Mhm.
started, people lost their jobs, they lost their income, and people stood in line, the bread line,
Mm-hmm.
and many people lost their business with no hope of ever rebuilding.
Mm.
Times were very hard,
Yeah.
but people worked together. They helped each other.
Right. I remember you talking about ration stamps. What was that like? And people in my generation have no clue. In fact, I don't really know very much about what ration stamps
Yeah.
are. But explain what that was and what purpose it served.
Well, it gave the people ration stamps because food, a lot of it was rationed.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember very clearly, shoes were rationed, gas was rationed.
Mm-hmm.
But even though we had the ration stamps, a lot of people wasn't financially able to even buy the supplies they needed.
Mm-hmm.
But it did help.
Okay. Now, getting into more deeply into World War II, of course, Japan attacked us at Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. Can you just explain, in your opinion, why it was important that America, first of all, once we got into the war and we had to conquer Japan, we had to win the fight. Can you explain the importance of, and of course, you can broaden that out as much as you want to, but explain how important it was for America to win World War II.
Well, Hitler started the war in 1939,
Mm-hmm.
although he was working on that years before.
Mm-hmm.
And when Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany, he March 23rd, 1933, German government was made a dictatorship.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as Hitler came into power in Germany,
Mm-hmm.
the country became the Socialist Party.
Mm.
And Hitler, right away, had boys and girls join. It's called the Hitler Youth Group, which started a military disorderly. And
And what age are we talking about here? Like are we talking? We're not talking about 18.
No,
like young adults. We're talking pre-adolescent.
yes.
I mean, that's really young. I mean, that's they're still impressionable at that age.
Yeah, because that's what he wanted to start them very young, because he could train them the way he wanted to.
Yeah.
And of course, the United States didn't enter the war until 1941,
Right.
after Pearl Harbor was bombed.
Right. We weren't in the war
No.
until that point.
We weren't
right.
in the war until then.
Right.
But I had 2 brothers and 4 brother-in-laws that served in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that your grandfather,
On my dad's side, because you're on my mother's side, but on my father's side,
was in World War II.
Right, and he was in. My understanding, this is what my dad told me. My understanding is that he was in the Pacific around the time the atomic bomb was dropped. And my grandfather on my dad's side never wanted to discuss at length about his experiences in specifically when he was in that area. And my thinking, as my dad thinks, is that if we had not attacked Japan, because let's remember, Japan attacked us.
Right.
We didn't instigate anything. We were responding to the threat. Had we, and Japan, for those who aren't aware of history, and I've read enough to know this, that Japan we were fighting Japan, and they were not surrendering. And the only way, it is part of Japanese culture actually, that they do not surrender. It was part of the Japanese protocol, I guess. But the only way we could have stopped them was by using a force like that would just force their hand into surrendering. But had we not done that, they would have attacked possibly the ship my grandfather was on.
Sure.
It's certainly in the realm of possibility, at least. But people tried to say that we were not justified in using the atomic bomb, and indeed the atomic bomb was a horrific thing, for those that were that received it. But I think that comes out of a sense of out of a mindset of ignorance, that people don't really understand what we were dealing with, the kind of threat we were dealing with at that point.
If it hadn't been used, the bomb hadn't been used, we would have lost.
Mm-hmm.
And we wouldn't be a free country today.
Yeah. I can imagine us being, we're 50 states. I can imagine we'd be possibly 50 countries, and many of them occupied by who knows what.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about Americanism in general, because, and believe it or not, we're actually just a few minutes out from being at the end of our show, but I wanted to get your opinion, because I believe our country we need to have an education about the Constitution. We need our younger generations to understand the importance of the Constitution. And that's what I've been trying to do with my previous episodes, is try to give people an understanding, a basic understanding of our Constitution. But what do you want to say? I'm just going to kind of open up the floor to you, and just kind of let you say what you want to say about Americanism and how important America is to having a free world.
It's very important. And our young people, my advice would be to them, get a good education, work hard, save a portion of your payday, because you never know what the future is going to hold.
Right.
And you are the ones that's going to be leading.
Right. Right. You know, my generation has never experienced the Great Depression. It's kind of hard to imagine not knowing where food's going to come from.
Right.
I've seen just a little bit of what it's like to be, down there income-wise. But I'm saying to not even know if you will have food at all.
Right.
I mean, we're talking. I mean, to experience something like that is truly something that people of younger generations, including mine, don't understand. But I think it's important. I think that's why history is important, because if they don't understand history, you're doomed to repeat history.
Right. Right.
And, it's like we want to get rid of history, and yet history is so important. So important. Because without it, without history, not only, as I just said, we're going to repeat our mistakes of the past, but also we don't know if we don't examine history, we don't know where we came from, so we don't really have a compass for going forward.
Right.
And also, finally, I just want to ask you about, there's this movement of people who love globalism over Americanism. And I just wanted to ask you what you thought about that. What people who think that globalism, for those who think that globalism is better than Americanism, what would you respond if somebody would say that kind of thing to you?
I'd say you're wrong.
Yeah.
America is the greatest country to live in.
It is one of the last free beacons in this
Right.
world.
And it's a place where a lot of countries just dream to have the freedom that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to lose that.
Mm-hmm. And our country, our younger generations, I'm concerned that my younger generations don't understand the importance of the Constitution and valuing our country. Because without this country, we would be a very dark place.
Right. And Truman prayed for God's guidance
Mm-hmm.
when he was as president.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure he prayed before he dropped the atomic bomb.
I have no doubt. So to make a decision like that.
Yes.
Well, I cannot believe this, but we're already at the end of our show. But I want to thank you for coming on today. I really do appreciate it.
Well, I hope it's been helpful.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed interviewing you, and thank you for joining us for the Citizen Report. And I'll see you right back here again next time. Have a great week ahead.